Ah, but I did turn on my microphone. Chris? Am
The
I?
rabbi?
What's happening?
Shame on the rabbi.
Hello? Hello?
was-
Hello, hello?
So guilt tripping. That's okay.
Can you
That's
hear
okay.
a word
I am
say?
sorry.
Hello, hello.
I am sorry that you were the first person I noticed.
Chris?
So-
Hmm.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. So
Hey,
good to
Chris?
see you.
Chris? Oh, okay. Can y'all hear me? Sort of. Not really, no. So the front row can hear me and the back row cannot. Oh,
There's
there
this,
we are.
What key I put? I took a mistaken key. It's gonna kill the two of us.
Yeah.
Okay,
wrong
we're gonna
key and
start
we're locked into it.
That was a bad key.
Yep.
לקראת כלה, still high. לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקה. Was that you? נקבלה. Let's try it again. לך דודי לקראת כלה, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, נקבלה. Let's do it again. לך דודי לקראת כלה, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, נקבלה. שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום ומבורך. שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום ומבורך. Shall we add the bim bam in the spirit of saying Shabbat Shalom?
Should have the bim bam.
You know the hand motion?
No.
Come on, Michael. I'm playing guitar. I cannot do that.
Well, you're very talented.
It's like Trista knows it. Follow Trista, everybody.
I follow you, they follow me. It's gonna work out.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, lai lai lai. Bim bam, bim bim bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome. Take a second to look around at the kahal, at the community, at your neighbors, at our colorers hard at work here. And take a moment also to welcome in the Sabbath around you. This is it. We made it. One more week down. And as we take in this Shabbat this Shabbat of comfort, the Shabbat of rest, of relaxing, I hope that we can all just take a moment with our prayers tonight and let ourselves go into them, let ourselves flow into them. And with that, I would like to invite us to turn to page 120 for our candle lighting as we invite up our candle lighters for this evening.
Donna and Carly.
Donna and Carly.
I invite you to light our outdoor Shabbat candles. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'almignen shel Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom Mevorach. We'll now turn our Sidurim to page 129. We commence this Shabbat of Nachamu, this Shabbat of consolation, thinking of love, thinking of this idea that our ability to repair, to rectify what has been broken is born on our ability to love. We're on page 129. Dili bani lo haroe bashoshani dorili misotona minamidbar misotona Dodili Aniro Aroe Vashoshani Dodili Mekuteremo Orlemona Mekuteremo We'll now turn our Sidurim to page 130 as we welcome Shabbat. He's back. We welcome Shabbat in our feet. We walk toward welcoming Shabbat. Even if we don't do that in our physical feet, wearing flip-flops or Crocs or whatever you are wearing, we try to think of Shabbat as an experience, an opportunity that ignites action, spiritual action, our spiritual feet. Adonai
צור אישנו מקדמה פניו ותודה סמירות נריע לו מקדמה פניו ותודה סמירות נריע לו.
Page 131, שירו לאדוני.
שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, מסרו מיום ליום, הום ישועתו, ספרו בגויים, כבודו, וכל העמים נפלאותיו. Each psalm, each poem stands in front of every single one of the days of the week as an invitation to acknowledge them and also to let them go, to separate from the work of creation that we have done during the week and to enter a different space that is a palace on time. The sixth psalm, the sixth day, as a reminder of the creation of humanity, invites us to think for a moment about our own creation, about our own existence, and maybe an opportunity to breathe into Shabbat, to take a deep breath as we in Shabbat try to let go of the work of creation and try to conquer our own souls. Once again, I invite you to take a deep breath as we turn our Sidurim to page 36 for Psalm 29. Mismo David. Mismo David, Avul Adonai Beneli. Mismo David, Avul Adonai Kavod Baos. Mismo David, Avul Adonai Beneli. Mismo David, Avul Adonai Kavod Baos. Avul Adonai Kavod Baos. Avul Adonai Kavod Shemo. Avul Adonai Kavod Baos. Avul Adonai Kavod Shemo. Adonai למוהיתם, אדוני יברך את עמו השלום. אדוני עוש למוהיתם, אדוני יברך את עמו השלום. יאי לי לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 שלום, אדוני עוש
יבוא ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. We'll now turn our Sidurim to page 138 to welcome the Shabbos bride, לך דודי לקראת כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. שמור ושחור בדיבור אחד, ישמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו לתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו במלכה, כי היא מקור הרווחה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Then in the fifth verse, התעוררי,
התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי,
אורי אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלי נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, את תשתוכחי ומה תהמי. בך יחסו עניי ימים, נפנתה עיר על בירה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. אוי ושלום עטרת ועלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני הסגולה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. And while you are standing, we will take a moment to say good Shabbos to each other. We encourage you to move away from your chair. We're going to take 2 minutes and make sure that if you recognize a face that you actually do not recognize, actually to that person you say good Shabbos.
And on every name tag, there should be a question. Ask them.
Wow. So nice.
Wow.
Beautiful. It's for me? No. Serio? Wow. בואי כלה, בואי כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה, פני שבת מקבלה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. פני שבת מקבלה. We'll invite you now to gradually go back to your chairs. Invite you to go back to your chairs and to turn your Sidurim to page 140 as we dedicate to Shabbat. One more song, one more psalm before we switch into Ma'arif Shel Shabbat. You know,
Sounds so good.
I think it's time to learn something, friends. It's time to learn a melody for Miss Morshir. I invite you to turn your Sidurim to page 140. Just do a little piece of this. This melody actually comes all the way from Brazil. There's a big Jewish community in Brazil, and they have their own melodies. It's a beautiful one, and in this Shabbat, Nachamu, in which we ask for the consolation that is born in love, it's nice to open our hearts to learning, to discovering different things, to experiencing different things. So I guess most of you don't know melodies from Brazil. So that, for most of us, will be different. It's very simple. It goes like this. It's going to be too low here. Miss Morshir leyom ha-Shabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai. Miss Morshir leyom ha-Shabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai. Samer. Let's start it again. Miss Morshir leyom ha-Shabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai. I don't expect you to learn it, I just want you to hear it. Now you have the melody in the back of your mind. We are going to start introducing the words. Miss Morshir leyom ha-Shabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, samer l'shimcha elyon. It repeats. ולשמח לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך. Let's do it again. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. You did perfectly. חווה לילות the microphone? I'll give microphone to Noga, actually. She's going like a bit faster than I am. So it might be nicer to hear her. Let's do it again. So, ולשמח לשמך העליון. אני repeat. ולשמח לשמך העליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. באמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור ועלי נבל. עלי היגיון מכינות. מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני. ולשמח לשמך עליון. ולשמח לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. How wonderful. אמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור עלי נבל. עלי היום מכינות. די 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 We'll now turn our Siddurim to page 144 for Hetzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, וילמד דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. בגאלה, בגאלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה. שמי קודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושחתה ונחמתה, דמינם רעמה, ואמרו אמן.
Turn our Siddurim to page 146 for Baruch. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Page 148, we find the prayer Mariva Aravim as we think about that liminal space. Our liturgists sometimes talk about the space between the sometimes danger that the Jews who came before us thought with the night and the evening. And by reminding ourselves, by anchoring ourselves in the fact that it is God who brings on the evening. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. We anchor ourselves in the safety of our faith, of our tradition, as we say it together, Baruch Atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
We now turn our Sidurim to page 150 for the blessing of love, for love, that we recite before the Shema.
Ahavat Olam Beit Israel Amcha ahavta Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shokenu ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמע את דברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. הם חיינו לאורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם בלילה, נגה יומם בלילה. באהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Page 152. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And the words that follow the Shema, that are on page 154, we read in this very Torah portion, Parashat Be'et Hanan. We are going to be reading them out of the Torah tomorrow. Page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך הדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Amen. Adonai Elohim, amen. We are going to continue with the silent reading over page 156. When your children witness your presence, they praise your name in gratitude and they accepted your sovereignty. Moshe, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. Who is like you, O God? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. We are on page 158. As it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own, from a challenge, an obstacle that felt just unbearable, impossible. As sometimes feel the challenges that we are dealing with in our lives. The Song of the Sea is a reminder that sometimes even when we don't see the other side, we need to gather the strength and the courage to walk forward. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Israel. Praise are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. From that place of connection, of strength, is that we also pray for inner peace. We're on page 116. Ashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamitenu shomreinu lechayim. Ashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamitenu shomreinu lechayim. סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. Blessed are you, Adonai, shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over the holy city of Jerusalem. Shambru b'nei Israel, we say, Etah Shabbat. We remind ourselves that it is a covenant between generations to make Shabbat a part of our lives, and we do it in flip-flops. That's the idea. The idea is that we find our ways to keep engaging with Shabbat. In this wonderful afternoon of Shabbat and sunny Northern California, very sunny. Northern California evening, or almost evening, we ask our way, we ask for our way, we ask for our connection. With that idea, we also ask for the shelter, for the protection that Shabbat offers to us, for that place of connection, going back home, the home that we yearn for, the home that we want to go back to, and the home that we are trying to create. Each of us is in a journey and a conversation with home, with the home. And now, turn our study to page 164 as we, with Shabbat in our hearts, will recite the words of Tfilat Amidah in silence, asking to find within the words of our Siddur, our Tfilah
East is this
Shebalev,
way.
the prayer of our heart. Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagi, Hilatecha, Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagi, Hilatecha, Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagi, Tefilatecha. In silence. Quédate aquí por lo menos. Dale, pero no, ما ما حشت أنا ما أنا ما أتوقع. יהי רצון אמרי פי, בהגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני, צורי וגואלי, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל באמרו אמן. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and all who inhabit the earth, and let us say,
Amen.
At this point of our service, we take a moment to acknowledge beloved ones that are dealing with illness in their bodies. dealing with illness in their souls. We think of those dealing with addictions, and so of those carrying grief. If there is a name that you like to share in this Erev Shabbat, we encourage you, we invite you to do so as we go around this communal space.
Shlom and Daniel Havi.
You read the list?
I do. Shabbat, we also pray for the healing of Bruce Roberts, Alfreda Massman, Diane Siegel, and Gail Frankel, Scott Ben Gundy and Daphne Talmor, Dave Stahl, Greg Erb, Murray Siegel, Lori Shaken, Sue Leiter, Laura Sternberg, Margaret McWan, Carol Rosenberg, Richard Ravich, Bernice Paris, Franklin Wolfson, Karen Katzman, Jerry Levy, Gary Tromby, and Paul Jerry Miller. Turn to page 371 as we begin our Misha Berach.
Misha Berach wish to all of them, to all of you, to all of us, רפואה שלמה, החלמה מהירה, a complete recovery and well-being.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is kind of one of these Shabbats that is full of stuff. Like, just pick one thing, and I couldn't. Just could. This is a very special Torah portion, Parashat Be'et Hanan, with one of the most important statements of our tradition. Just a few days ago, we commemorated Tisha B'Av. Just a few days ago, the first law of the judicial reform passed in Israel and created a massive reaction and massive concern. Concern because of the consequences of this. This is off script, but I'll get to the script in a minute. So, sometimes can't help myself. So, concerns because of the consequences of the specific law that have passed and what are going to be the implications and the laws that are going to follow, and concerned because of the divisiveness that we are dealing with. And this is Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of consolation. Nachamu, Nachamu, says the prophet. Like you should find some comfort. You cannot stay forever in a state of mourning. So here's where we are with all these things. And I will say, just an interesting kind of side note, as this entire thing that I just said. A side note is that on the 15th of the month of Av, we commemorate another, we have not commemorate, we celebrate kind of a minor Jewish holiday. What's that minor Jewish holiday? Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av, the 15th of the month of Av, which is the celebration of what? Love. Tu B'Av is the celebration of love. And it's like, we like to say in the US, it's like the Jewish Valentine's Day, okay? But not at all. Like, actually, the Talmud says that Valentine's Day for the Jews was actually Yom Kippur, but that's for a different conversation. Don't ask the rabbis. But I'm not kidding. I totally meant that. The Talmud says that there weren't days as Yom Kippur in order for people to meet each other and to engage in loving relationships. That's my child. Someone take control of that child. Okay, anyway, it's my child. Don't shush children. Let them speak. Besides, if they are mine. If they are mine, no. But the holiday of love, the celebration of love. And this celebration of love is actually after the commemoration of the destruction of the two temples, after the saddest day in the Jewish calendar. And in that day, Donna is not the 12-week program, it's the 6-week program. On that day, we start preparing for Rosh Hashanah. Understanding. And what's the main motif of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? What's the word that we say again and again and again? Teshuvah. What's the meaning of the word Teshuvah? Return. And what we are recognizing in the 9 of the month of Av? Exile. So it's an interesting thing about this idea of being spiritually in the exile and understanding that the way to build a home that has been broken, physically or spiritually, that the way to make our way back to that home that we want to build cannot be through the pain or the anger of recognizing that we have lost something, but rather focusing ourselves in love. Now the script. Don't worry about it. We're not doing fast. So, 15 pages. Anyway, so the Talmud tells a story that comes to explain what happened to the temple, to the second temple. It's a story about a little misunderstanding that gets really, really bad. So there are two characters that are important characters in this story. One is Kamsa, and the other one is Bar Kamsa. They sound like the same, but they are not the same character. One day there is a party going on in Jerusalem, and the host wants to invite his buddy Kamsa. But little misunderstanding, little error, little typo. The one who gets invited to the party is one whose name is Bar Kamsa. I'm not Kamsa. And think about the party crasher, Bar Kamsa. Now, Bar Kamsa shows up all excited, thinking he's finally part of the celebrations. And very quickly, it turns out that he is not the person that the host meant to invite. And the host comes to Bar Kamsa and says, excuse me, Barkansa, you will need to leave. You're a party crasher. Leave my party. And Barkansa says, don't bring this embarrassment to me. Give me a pass. Help me. I'll pay for my food. And the host says, no way. But Barkansa even offers to pay for half of the party. And what the host says? Sorry, but no way. You need to leave. Is that nice from the host to do such a thing? No, not that nice. Is that reasonable? Not very reasonable. He's really embarrassing this person who is not his friend. He actually dislikes him very much. But his behavior is unreasonable. No, he's already there, Barkansa, so just give him something to eat. Hug him there and kiss him goodbye at the end of the party. What's the big deal? But Barkansa gets really, really offended. There was no way, and he leaves the party fully or completely embarrassed. And he decides that he's going to do something with that grudge. And he starts rumors about the Jews. And these are the two things that the rabbis will say about what are the consequences of these rumors. The rabbis will say that these rumors ended up going all the way to the Romans, and that somehow nurtured the anger of the Romans, and that ended up with the destruction of the second temple. The rabbis will say also one more thing. They say that what annoyed Barkamsa more than anything else is that many rabbis were in that party and they didn't say anything. They let that happen. Now, rabbinical tradition could have chosen many stories or many ideas to explain the destruction of the second temple. And the easiest one was just to say the Romans destroyed the temple. But that's not the narrative. The narrative, the traditional Jewish narrative, is that the second temple, the one that we mourn in Tisha B'Av, was destroyed because of unjustified hatred between siblings. And the rabbis stick to that narrative. And I want to say that that's a piece of rabbinical brightness. Because guess what? Well, the Roman Empire has disappeared since from the war. But we Jews keep fighting with each other. Just open the news in Israel. So there is actually a case for us to find our way through history in this moment and to ask for the ability to engage in more loving conversation. So I want to share, I've saved you like 6 pages, okay? Just for you to know. I just need to get, now that I'm going to speak it out. Okay. 5. Okay. The linking, let me say one thing before. The nine of the month of Av is not the day of hope. It's not the day in which we say, okay, we're going to hope that we're going to make it through it. That's not the intention. The intention of Tisha B'Av, of the 9 of the month of Av, for us to be sad. Stay there. Don't try to quickly move away from that place. It's a time to recognize what has been broken. It's a day. It's a one-day thing of going to what has been broken and cry for it. Now, the linking of the current events in Israel, which for many feels like the very imminent and tangible danger of losing our third house, and the commemoration of the destruction of the first and the second temple has been inevitable. Of course, the fact that the first law of the judicial reform, or because of the extreme approach and narrow support, one could say not a judicial reform, but rather a judicial overhaul. That law was passed on the same week in which we commemorate Tisha B'Av, and it deeply contributed to the feeling and the narrative that the state of Israel is being destroyed. Once again, and it has been, as it has been for 30 consecutive weeks, hundreds of thousands of Israelis went out to the streets to demonstrate. Do you hear that? 30 consecutive weeks, hundreds of thousands of Israelis. If you think about those numbers in America, it's like millions of Americans showing up and going out to the streets. The biggest group went out to demonstrate and to express their disappointment, pain, and fear, and yet a sizable group demonstrated their support and contentment for the reform. And since the question has been sounding, what's next? What do we do now? And so in this Shabbat of intersections between the sadness of Tisha B'Av, followed by this special Shabbat of Nachamu, the Shabbat of consolation, in which we also read Parashat, the portion Be'et Hanan, with the emblematic words, Shema Israel. Israel, you should listen. Shema Israel, listen, O Israel. Ve'afta, you shall love. I want to share 3 ideas that might help us open our hearts toward the hope of returning, the hope of being at home once again, that is so wonderfully expressed at the end of Megillat Eicha, the book of Lamentations that we read in Tisha B'Av. Ashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva, return us to you, and we will return. The first idea about Tisha B'Av, in the deep sadness of this day, we can find some perspective. We have experienced destruction and exile, and they are certainly transgenerational trauma, if you want, or at least a part of our collective memory. But the 2,000 years that we lack a national home, they too should be a part of our collective memory. While we need to stay alert and vigilant to protect the home that we have built over the last 75 years, the state of Israel, we also need to remember that the dream of that national home won't evaporate with this or other specific decision that the Knesset, the parliament, has made. And that we must work so that our growing concern and frustration does not translate into indifference and disconnection. That's a threat too. This decision is not going to eliminate us from earth. It's a tough one. It's one that many of us deeply dislike. But we can't get to a point in which we are so frustrated that we don't want to engage anymore. It's time to show up. The second idea, founded in the concept of Be'avta, Parashat Beit Hanan, you shall love. In Israel, in different times of our history, people would say, Rak Ahava tenatzeach, only love will win. And that's a slogan that is deeply connected with the right. Deeply connected, Yesh bi ahava v'tenatzeach is a very popular song, not necessarily connected with the right, but only love is going to win. It's connected to one side of the equation. I want to say that love will prevail. And that love is not giving up. Love, ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך, is stick to your ideals. It's not remove yourself from what you believe is true. It's stick to what you believe is true and show up. Stand firm by your principles. Number 1, do not grow indifferent. Number 2, stay firm by your principles. Show up. And number 3, this is the toughest one. Consolation, comfort. Now, how we can find some comfort? You know the story of King Solomon, right? Say yes, come on, friends. Like, move your heads affirmatively. The story. So the two moms show up with a baby. The two moms show up with a baby. And they go back and forth. They have this discussion about who is the real mother. And what's the bottom line? The bottom line, when King Solomon said, we're going to cut this baby in 2 halves, so each of you can hold the part. We're going to go with these devices. We're going to really divide this baby. The real mother of the baby says, no way. You take the baby. The one that has the willingness and the ability and the gut to compromise is the one that really, really loves the baby. So here's the thing. You got to stick by your principles, but you got to love the baby. And you need to deal with that tension. We need to deal with that tension. We need to live and deal with this idea that no, the state of Israel is not taken away, but there is a serious crisis. And that crisis requires engagement and connection and showing up and demonstrating, because the state of Israel is a miracle. It's a miracle that we dreamt for 2,000 years. And it's a new thing, and we need to figure out how this thing works. Number 2, our values are important. And we are not supposed to give up on those values. We are supposed to show up and remind those values. And we are supposed to support our Israeli siblings that are showing up and demonstrating every single week. And we are supposed to be demonstrating here as well. And number 3, we need to find some way to compromise and to urge our leaders to engage in a conversation where there is compromise. And I want to say, yes, consolation, we say, right? So there's a very smart Israeli whose name is Yedidia Stern. Yedidia Stern, Professor Yedidia Stern, was the head of the Israeli Institute for Democracy. He wrote an article that appeared yesterday in the news. He says, the bottom line is not the Supreme Court, as many of us hope for, canceling this law that's not going to be legally good or socially good either. Because remember, there are 2 sides that really love right now. They don't hate, they love. They love very differently. And those that love, they will stick to what they believe in. They also need to know and learn how to compromise a little bit so we can live together. So Stern says that the bottom line, his hope and his belief, is that there is going to be a brit of metunin, a covenant of moderate people in the parliament, in the Knesset. I want to say that that's our best bet at this point, to hope for a covenant that makes sense for the Israeli society, for the state of Israel, and for the worldwide Jewry. And that covenant, the possibility of that covenant, is a call to action to us. To believe in the continuity of the state of Israel and our need to support the state of Israel. To show up and to articulate our ideals, and at the same time, to urge our leaders to converse with each other. We need to give them that permission, and we need to urge them to do that. Because ultimately, the idea of giving up on the state of Israel is a privilege that we don't really have. Ehud Manor wrote, the Israeli poet, "Ein li eretz acheret." We have only one Jewish national state. And it is our work to protect, pray, and show up for this miracle that our generation has the privilege to experience. It wasn't right for 2,000 years. It's been right for the last 75. Let's make sure that we commit for 75 more years. Shabbat Shalom. We now turn our study to page 587 for Aleinu Leshabeach. Please rise.
תודה.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. נאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. At this point, we take a moment to honor and acknowledge.
So, as we remember those who are no longer with us this evening, before we close our service, I'd like to ask, if you are in the first 7 days of mourning in Shiva, would you please rise and share with us the name of those you are remembering? If you are in the first 30 days of mourning, the Shloshim, please rise and share with us who you are remembering. If you are in the cycle of the first year of mourning, please rise and share with us who you're remembering. And if you have a yahrzeit this week, an anniversary of somebody's passing, please rise and share with us who you are remembering. The congregation. The congregation offers our condolences to Liz Herman on the death of her mother, Marcel Cunningham, and Veronica Bronstein on the death of her father, Generosa Benito. We also remember loved ones whose death has recently taken from us. Madeline Salzman, Kevin Scott, Robert Kilgore, Dahlia Schneider, Michael Pleiner, Shirley Israel, Thelma Turner, Marilyn Greben, Alan Fagan, Jonah Anschell, Sharon Lowenbraun, Sheila Baumberger, Dr. Grace Deutsch, Clarissa Glotzer, Stephen Borenstein, Richard Kennemer, Ethel Shanker, Vardi Sachi, Rabbi Talit Shavit, Jack Long, Virginia Larson, Miriam Maurer, Bob Sturman, Lenora Wang, Adam Richard Spilka, Solomon Shlomo Isips, Howard Levine, Barbara Lombard, Claire London, Drago Herman, Merrill Greenwald, Samuel Greenwald, Anita Kumula, Bryce Lyon, Edna Stone, Miriam Davis, Lauren Genovich, Janet Wool, Charlene Kilgore, Ezra Satri, Gideon Hoffer, Alvin Kramer Siegel, Vlasta Vejinovic, Galina Butarina, Karen Imbozano, Lillian Berman, Robert Bruce Myers, Abraham Caras, Scott Safadi, Norman Green, Marilyn Silverman, Leslie Hajnal, David Green, Jenny Porush, Estelle Abrams, Spencer Caney, Arthur Cherdak, and Kay Dameron. I remember those who died at this season in years past: Dolores Alberts, Ethel Sandelman, George Calbert, Nathan Krasnopoler, Stephen Chaikin, and Sylvan Saperstein. And now, please, you can support our community by standing or sitting, joining us with your voices or your hearts for the Kiddush Tom, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 598. May the memories of your dear ones be a blessing in your life and to all your loved ones. Yeh zichram baruch.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמה דברה חירותה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון וביומכון, וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, באמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, פער ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל הלכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירם בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. יש לומר רבה מן שמעיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. The memories of your beloved ones be always a blessing in your life. Yezechram Baruch. You may be seated. We will invite Michelle as our boss. Thank you for letting us know, Michelle. Could I put the microphone in your power? Here you go.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. I'm Michelle Wolflam. I'm going to highlight a few announcements. You can see all of them on the back of the handouts you don't have, and also on our website calendar. What was that?
This is not happening.
Oh, right, I saw that. So tomorrow, July 29th at 9:30 a.m., we'll have Torah study, followed by the 10:30 a.m. Shabbat morning service. On Sunday, July 30th here, we'll have from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. the Stanford Blood Drive. To reserve a spot, please visit our website. On Friday, August 4th at 5 p.m., Rabbi Michael Walden, meet and greet with Flip Flop Shabbat out on the patio, wine and cheese. He'll be here all month.
We'll be here all
It's going to be holding the wine and cheese.
multiple months, actually.
Wine and cheese for the adults and snacks and games for the kids at 5:30, followed by services at 6 p.m., and dinner served around 7 p.m. Registration is now open on the website. Preview, Sunday, August 13th, 10:30 a.m., Shir Hadash Open House. An invitation for all future members and our cherished preschool parents who are interested in exploring our programs, communities, values, and traditions. Save the date and let your friends know who may be interested in membership. On the same day, Sunday, August 13th at noon, the first day of Elul Community Barbecue on the patio. It was a huge hit last year. We encourage you to come this year. There will be barbecue, bounce houses, spin art, and a Where's Walden scavenger hunt. Everyone is welcome. Please register on the website. Shabbat Shalom.
You should do so the graphics. And like something that we don't have, we advertised today. Next week we have the privilege to host a beloved friend of Michael and I, Rabbi Daniel Levin, who is the senior educator for Hillel in Orange County. Daniel is an expert in several things.
He's an expert in a lot of things.
He's an expert in tons of things. It's really, he will be speaking on Friday night. Saturday morning he will be teaching Torah study and speaking in the service. So we encourage you to join us and to listen to Daniel, to Rabbi Daniel. We are now going to turn our Siddurim to page 122 for Kiddush. We invite you to please rise. ויחול השמיים בארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כמו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. I will say סברי חבריי וחברותיי, and you will say לחיים.
לחיים.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, עורף פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כיום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. לחיים. We will now we'll now conclude our service, taking a moment to take the blessings that we're carrying in our hearts and to share them with each other. If you have family members, friends, or if you're on your own, make sure that you stand next to someone, make eye contact with someone, get in touch with people. Even if you are not touching each other, just acknowledge each other's presence. The beautiful thing about this moment and this time is that we recognize that there are a lot of things that are yet to be built, and that we can do that work together with love, standing by our principles, but also with enough love to understand that those in front of us also have principles, they also have needs, and that if we really care for what we love, we need to find ways to talk to each other, to engage with each other, share the words that our tradition has been carrying also from the millennial generation. As we say, ישמכם אלוהים כפלאים וכמנשה, ישמכם אלוהים כשרה רבקה רחל ולאה. May God inspire all of you, all of us, to be like the loving parents of the house of Israel. And we say to all of you, יברככם אדוני וישמרכם. May God bless you and protect you. יאר אדוני פניו אליכם ויחונקם. May God's light shine upon you and may God be gracious to you. יישא אדוני פניו אליכם. May you find within you God's presence always. And may God bless you with the ability to find perspective, even in difficult moments, even in moments of crisis. The ability and the willingness to love, to engage deeply in what you believe. And ultimately, the ability to recognize that in order to build a better world, we need to find ways to talk to each other, even when we disagree. Because we love this world, we love our lives. And only from that place we can live and build. And may God bless you with shalom, with peace. אדוני עוש לעמיו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. שבת שלום. שבת שלום ומבורך יריבל. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך הדור לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך הדור לכל השלום. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Who is doing a motzi as we start the dinner? If you are in direct line with me and can say a motzi, please say a motzi. Thank you. Do Chavez, everybody. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. שב ושב.